Hi, it's Jim again. On Sunday, July the 27th, 2025, and we're taking a controversial subject. People who have been declared dead, and by many different, I want to say, stories that I've read, came back to life. Usually it involved, always it involved another person interceding. And I'm not going to make this long because there's so many books on this. I got three, four by medical doctors, two that had died and come back to life, and um, one came back to life. He was a neurosurgeon. Probably can find him real quick. If you put neurosurgeon comes back to life, dies and comes back to life. If you look that up on Google, you could read about his book. And there was a lady by the name of Mary. She was a neurosurgeon too, and she was underwater. Um, she was in a boat, crashed, not crashed, turned over, and they couldn't get her out because of the uh, there was a lot of I want to say, well, how do you say this? Foliage, stuff that kept the boat from coming back up, and of course they prayed. All this, these people prayed. So if you don't want to hear me mention prayer, just skip over this one. Um, they prayed for her, knowing that she was underwater and couldn't be alive because she had been underwater so long and they couldn't get the boat up. They couldn't get the boat up. She was the only one in the boat. Well, she watched from above people trying to get that boat undone, but she was dead. Of course, there were people saying, well, she was alive because water can keep you alive, even even if something like this happens. Well, yeah, good luck with that story. So what I'm saying here is there's two medical doctors that had been dead several times. The man, can't think of his name, but I will find the books here and show you the covers of the books. The man had been dead so long. Um, it was like this. He was still breathing in this case, but the lights were turned off up here. There was no brain activity. So I don't know how many weeks. I don't remember this because I read the book a long time ago. But I'm going to take them back out and reread them. In this case, it had been so long, but because he was a neurosurgeon, they were trying to keep him alive. I think he was head of the department. They kept him alive until they decided there's no use. Let's pull the plug. Take him off the ventilator tomorrow. So they got the preacher, his wife, family, and you know what I'm getting ready to say. They were getting ready to unplug the life support, and his eyes started opening. Since then, he's written at least 2 books, spoken all over this country, I know, because I followed the towns he's been speaking in. I don't know about his worldwide outreach, but the book was quite fascinating, and for me, it was almost unbelievable. Well, with the first book by the woman that was caught under her boat, it was like a canoe. She couldn't get the canoe to get out of the water, so she drowned. But with her, she didn't feel any pain, nothing. And all of a sudden, they were working on trying to get that boat out. All of a sudden, after maybe half an hour to an hour, they were able to pull that. It came unlodged. They pulled her out, and of course, they knew she was dead. The real thing is she was pretty well beaten up physically. She was alive, or came back to life. Put her on an airplane and flew her to a hospital. And in both of these, there was a long period of rehab. I'm not going to go into that. Baptist preacher, I can't remember his name, gets run into by a truck. They declared him dead for 90 minutes. Many years later, after he survived, after he came back to life, he was afraid to tell anyone, but when he finally did, they said, "You need to write a book about it. It's called 90 Minutes in Heaven." He discusses what his experience was in heaven for 90 minutes, that his heart was not beating and that he was dead. So I'm very skeptical of these type of stories. However, I do a lot of research, a lot of YouTube stories where they speak, a lot of YouTube information on did it really happen. I mean on Google. So I'm sharing this. I'm going to mention one other person, a heart doctor. He was head of a heart division in a hospital, and this guy died. His fingers turned gray, hands turned gray. He went out to his car, and God, he said, told him, go back and have him shock him. And he says, I've already put the time of death, which was like 20 minutes before he got to his car. He says, this is my imagination. So he gets, I guess he opens the door of the car, and the way I remember it, I loan this. When I loan books like this out, I don't get them back. So he's an MD, okay? He was a top credentialed heart doctor. He goes back into the hospital on the second request in his mind, go back and pray for this guy. He said, this ain't going to end well. He goes in and they're preparing to take him to wherever they take people that die. This one doctor left, two nurses in there. He says, I want you to take that sheet off and I want you to put the shockers on and shock them. And they looked at him like he's crazy. Do you know what? Do you know that you're the one that declared his death about 20, 30 minutes ago? What the heck's wrong with you? He said, look, I'm over this heart department. I want you to shock him again. A straight line. That shows your heart's not beating. Hadn't been beating for a long time. Straight lines, the reason why he put that he was dead. Nothing happened. Everybody looked at you. Look at him. This guy had a stroke. This doctor's something wrong. That's my own words. Something's wrong with this doctor. Then he says, shock him again. You have to because I'm over you. They shocked him again. What do you think happened? Straight line. Fingers are getting more gray, hands getting more gray. He said he never saw a person of this color during death. He said, shock him a third time. You can imagine the laughter in the doctor that did this and the two nurses. And they shocked him again. And it started going up and down. It wasn't a straight line. It went up and down. And then he started blinking. Like, what's going on? Now, all this is in the book. I'm not going to go too much further, except to say, I had placed my hand on you and prayed. I prayed that if you weren't right with Jesus and had not asked him into your heart, that you will come back, and you did. Well, they sent him to ICU. He didn't see him for 2 or 3 days. He goes to ICU, and he's there. He's there. He was expecting him to be dead, but he's there. He said, could I ask you what happened before you came back? And he described his version of hell and starting to enter it. Starting to enter it. And then that prayer from the doctor brought him back for a second chance. The guy never was different, was always different after that, and changed his life. Now, since then, the doctor wrote a second book and established a heart hospital in Florida, the last I heard. I told my wife, if I have a heart attack, please send me to him, because he prays now. He prays for every patient that he sees, if they'll let him. Those are the 3 legitimate ones that I have read over and over and over, and checked out and looked on Google. And now, There's others, I think, are writing books about this, dying and coming back from heaven. And heaven help me if I'm wrong. I think they're doing that for money because everybody's interested in this. Coming back after death. I haven't found any more books like this. Four? Did I talk about four? No. That last doctor had two. And then the woman doctor had one that drowned. And the neuroscience, neuro doctor, let's just call him that, was dead. 4 books seems to have convinced me to make this video. All the others I've read, can I shake my head? No. Not going to talk about those. People buy anything if there's hope in it. And these 4 books, there wasn't hope in it. It's documented on the internet, on Google, on not Facebook. They may be on Facebook. I didn't check, but for sure on YouTube, they talk about it. I know they talk about it because I haven't looked for them for maybe a year, but they were telling their stories. Now, the reason I'm sharing this is only because I had an urge to, for whatever reason. I had an urge. It's because I was talking to a friend that's 96 years old about him saying if he's picked up by ambulance, he doesn't want to be shocked back to live just to die again. Okay? So that sparked this video. I know some of you believe the stories that I read, and I know maybe an equal amount, even though this is a Christian country. Half of you all will say it's not true. But not all Christians believe the same, do they? So whether you believe it or whether you don't, doesn't bother me whatsoever. But I'm so glad you heard this. Either way, whether you believe it or whether you don't, I'm glad you heard. What I had to say. No, thank you for listening. I try to do this as often as possible. I've done it the last 3 nights. I've done what's on my mind. Now here's the thing. I got to break the stress. Let me break the stress if you haven't hung up on me. The stress is I've been told to be successful on YouTube, I've got to get a niche. You know what a niche is? It's a pointed area that is it is where you talk about the same thing over and over. And you bring in stories to prove it. That's your niche. Boy, that's a clumsy way of describing it, but that's the best I can do at this. What time is it? 10:35. This time of night, this is the best I can tell you. They tell me when I look to see how to get more followers, they say you got to have a niche. Or you might as well close down. And I have 15 views on one, 20 on another. I think one last night maybe has hit 50 views. You know what? You know what keeps me making these? They're men and ladies both. They say, I needed what you said. Don't stop, because if one person is helped, that's all you need to think about. And as I was reading the few that I got from last night, I got some reinforcement that I got some words of hope to keep on. So I must stop here. Thanks for watching.